and I'm making all these mistakes and everyone's getting upset at me and everything's terrifying and I'm anxious and I'm stressed and they're in fight and flight all the time.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I got a very special guest, Will Atherton from Will Atherton Canine Training. Make sure you guys subscribed. I've known Will for a few years now, and he was finally able to get this whole mess of travel, canceled flights 4 times, 5 times, all situated, and finally make it over here to visit the one and only majestic Bruce Wayne and the sleepy Joey Justice.
And even you. Even me. You'll do.
All the training courses I'm always talking about, Will runs those. I have so much trust in Will. I have so much belief in Will and his dog training, in his system, and he is a balanced dog trainer. And I really want to talk about balanced dog training. Want to lay down, buddy? Because when it comes to balanced dog training, you have positive and negative, right? Mm-hmm. And when people think negative, they think something really harsh and evil, but you can't have positive without negative. You need both to make the dog understand. I get a lot of people when I use a prong collar, especially on the prong collar video with Justice. People say I'm barbaric, I'm evil, I'm better than that, I don't need that. And I think they're misunderstanding how these tools can be useful. So in this video, we want to talk about balanced training, and I like to call them communication tools.
Yeah,
because
I've not heard that before about that.
They're amazing communication tools. You must understand how to use these tools so you don't hurt your dog, but they are not made to harm your dog by any means, and quite the opposite. They can save your dog's life. So why don't you kind of talk about your philosophy of dog training really quick?
It's kind of exactly that. It's my dog training. It's simple. Everything is built on the foundations of leadership, that we need to be our dogs' loving leaders so that this happens. So the dogs are always looking up to you for guidance and direction. That's the key. Once you've built that kind of relationship, which is what people love about you guys, is that, especially, no disrespect, Joey, but you're new to the equation, but Bruce Wayne for years, people have watched that journey of such a majestic giant have such full trust in you and look up to you for guidance and direction. That's the foundation, the fundamentals. Once you've got that relationship, then that means you can communicate easier. If he's not looking up to you for guidance and direction, it's then really difficult for you to communicate to him.
Yes.
If he is looking up to you, then you can communicate to him easily. What that communication then looks like is the piece of the puzzle that sometimes people get a bit het up about and can argue about. But essentially, my system is quite simple. Once you've got that relationship where you can communicate, you just have to find ways to communicate to your dog what it is that you do want, and then find ways to communicate when they're doing something that you don't want them to do, that you don't want them to do again. It's that simple. And you just live your life with that kind of harmony where it's just effortless communication, and then that way your dog's safe, under control, and the dream canine companion that you've always wanted.
And Will's from the UK, for anybody that's not familiar with him, and it really crazy to me the cultural differences in these communication tools, such as prong collars, such as e-collars. They're very frowned upon and illegal.
So the e-collar is looking like it's going to be banned across all of the UK, and it's currently banned in Wales, I believe. That's one of the countries that make up the UK. It looks like the other countries are going to copy suit soon.
Okay. And what about prong collars?
They're safe for now.
Safe for now?
But there's a lot of stuff happening. People would like to see them banned, definitely.
And what do you think the overall... What do you think's causing such a negative light on these tools, which I see in a very positive light?
It's just, I think it's a lack of education. It's two things. I think it's a lack of education, and then the reality that a lot of kind of balance trainers or advocates don't want to admit is that they do get misused. They absolutely do. And when they do, it's just not nice, and it's easy to then blame the tool. My thing is the blame is on the person using the tool, not on the tool, but it is, I understand how the narrative or for the story it's easy to simply blame the tool, and especially like prong collars. Let's not be around the bush. For people that haven't seen them before, they look atrocious.
Oh yeah, they look mean.
If you're not educated on what they actually do, what they feel like, how to use it, and then you've read stories from big charities or big organisations saying that they are cruel, or seen those pictures where there's like holes in the dog's neck, which what's happened is just someone's put it on and the dog's grown into it, but it looks like someone's done a prong collar correction, and that's what it's designed to do, is to puncture holes in the dog's neck.
And it's not what it's meant to do, because they're not even sharp.
Yeah,
they're like flat. They're blunt.
Actually rounded even more so than just flat.
Yeah, they're rounded. The corners of the.
If you get a good one, that is.
Yeah.
Some of
and that's
them
the
I've
other
seen
thing.
can be sharp.
Hermspringer is the only one that you should be using, in my opinion.
Like any tool, all tools can be misused. It's not just, so what a prong collar would be classed as would suppose be an aversive tool or a corrective tool. It's usually a tool designed to help the dog understand when they're doing something wrong. Now, there's a lot of actually advanced skills that I was talking to you about, that dog that I was working with last week that was completely deaf. So I was actually using the prong collar on very, very, very slight sensation, which to him would feel nothing more than this that I'm doing to Bruce now, but pairing that as a way to give commands to the dog because he can't hear me. So there's lots of non-aversive ways you can use it as well. But also the fact that kind of food is a tool, food work is a tool. So using kind of positive reinforcement in and of itself can be a tool for training. But ultimately, if that's done wrong, you can create issues. Like we were talking about at the gym this morning about those dogs that you can see are clearly in states of stress and anxiety and fear, oftentimes because the only tool that's been used may have been positive reinforcement, and therefore the dog doesn't understand what is not expected of it, and then you're getting frustrated because it's misbehaving, and then you're trying to redirect and reward with food, but oftentimes that's not done very well, so you end up accidentally reinforcing that bad behavior you're trying to avoid. You're getting angry, the dog's getting confused, they're fearful, anxious.
It's turning into a big mess.
And I would argue that that was a misuse of a piece of food training. And then obviously you've got kind of mental distress versus a physical correction. Where do you kind of even begin with comparing what's worse or better, or it's just a mess of a debate. But yes, absolutely, even though I'm someone that advocates for them, I also strongly believe that they should be used in the right way, and I'm more than happy to admit that there are people out there that do misuse them. And my job as a professional is to try and educate people on how to use them in the right way from a place of love and kindness. I think that's the key thing. If obviously I'm a behaviourist, I work with mostly behaviour cases, so I would never really get the joys of working with a Bruce type dog. I'm working with Corsos that are reactive, aggressive, bad cases. Now, if I could fix that with food, I would. I don't administer corrections because I like it. It doesn't make, I feel bad doing it. And if there was another way, I would absolutely use it. But to help that dog, from a place of love, because I love that dog and I don't want to see that dog put down, then I will do it to help save that dog's life. And again, I think people remembering that should again be the foundation of that kind of love and kindness and caring about the dog, being where these things come from. That's kind of what I'm spending a lot of my time doing now, and I'm advocating for these tools. And
you saw, we walked in the gym, I had Bruce on the prong collar, I had Justin on the prong collar. Was there even any pressure on those?
There was no need for it at all.
And you know, the majority here understand, because I'm such a big advocate for these training tools, for these communication tools. If I was misusing a prong collar on all those years on Bruce, he would not be doing this. He would not want to be, it'd be, if I was abusing him with the prong collar, he may do things for me out of fear. He's not going to come up on here and want to love up on me. And you know, have this type of canine companionship that I have with the dog.
This is a testament to relationship. And because your relationship is so strong, because you can communicate so effortlessly, you communicate beautifully what you do want from him with your verbal markers and your rewards, and you also communicate what you don't want from him, which people underestimate. Dogs like that. They thrive on that clear guidance and rules and boundaries.
Absolutely. Especially like a breed. You don't want any dog taking over. You do not want a 150-pound monster taking over, making decisions for you instead of you making decisions for them. And if you're not the proper leader to your dog, they're going to be making the decisions for you, or they're going to make decisions, you know, that they want to make because nobody's making it for them. And I don't think a lot of people understand how stressful and miserable that dog's life is, like mentally.
Unless you have a true dominance case, and dominance is thrown around a lot, the word dominant, but it's very, very, very rare. A lot of people think badly behaved dog, well, it must be a dominant dog. That is not the case. The vast amount of majority of problem behaviors stem from that dog's fear and anxiety. It's fearful and anxious because nobody is telling that dog what to do and what not to do.
They don't want to make the decisions.
They don't. The state of mind that puts them into is a distressed state. They don't like stressed. It. Which is why I talk about it, and you can watch I've got loads of videos on me working with these dogs, and I call it, you physically see the weight of the world come off the dog's shoulder when you come in and just instill those rules and boundaries and say, hey buddy,
God.
I'm driving, I've got this, don't worry about it. You literally see them do that, go, it's all I've ever wanted. All I've ever wanted was somebody to drive, and I've been driving and not wanting to. And I'm making all these mistakes, and everyone's getting upset at me, and everything's terrifying, and I'm anxious, and I'm stressed, and they're in fight and flight all the time. And then you come in and just instill that leadership for them, and they just go, oh.
I know.
And you see it in their eyes, their pupils change, their body is beautiful.
And isn't it ironic that the people that are against these communication tools think we are harming our dogs when X said individuals have these anxious, stressed out dogs making their dogs' lives worse compared to what it could be, just relaxed. You know, it's like Bruce and Justice just met Will not even 24 hours ago. And because Will has that leadership in him, like Bruce took to him like this, like this. Bruce doesn't take to everyone like that. I always get people like, I want to meet Bruce Wayne so bad. It's like, he's probably, not to be mean, but he ain't probably going to like you unless you're really good with dogs. But Will's confidence with dogs, Will understands dog behaviorism so well. Like he did everything proper, and within like 1 minute, Bruce was like, all right, you're my best friend, bro. He's like, I see my dad's got this. I gave Will a hug in front of Bruce. He's like, he sees everything's good. Will's presence good. Will understands how to act around him. And you know, just like that. Best buds. Because
there's no need for him to be fearful and anxious around me, because I aim to that calm, consistent leadership I talk about. It's very hard, and I know it sounds a bit woo-wah, like, calm, consistent leadership,
but it's true.
And energy, and what does that actually look like? I understand that is a hard thing to teach.
Yes.
But with practice, you can absolutely get there. And it's like we were talking about earlier, we're quite confident, which makes we're quite naturals at it. But absolutely people can get there with practice. And with your balance training, and this is like a very hard, Kara has a hard time with it, and she'll openly admit it. She has a hard time being balanced as in the correction area of things in public. And my wife's exactly the same.
If you have that issue, Kara's much, she'll still do it now, but she'll admit that it like mentally like stresses her out. She'll completely do it, but she's not as quick as me with it. But if you can't correct your dog in public, you should not own a Corso for sure. But you're never going to get that complete leadership you're looking for, because it's very easy to get your dog to behave in the house. It's very easy. It's their natural routine. Take them out in public and get them to behave. If they're misbehaving and you're not correcting that, then they're going to think, if you're not correcting it, you're basically empowering that type of behavior. And just as you need to correct the bad, you need to also be praising the good. I'm sure you heard me when I was healing with the puppy and Bruce. I'm like, good heel, just so they know, like, okay, you're walking perfect next to me. This is what I want. You keep doing that. So it's like, it's balanced. You know, obviously 95% praise and 5% correction. But that's a big thing I see with people having an issue doing public corrections. And I'll even get it with strangers that want to pet the puppy, for example. He may jump up or whatever. And they're like, oh, it's okay. I'm like, it's not okay for me. It's, you know, he needs to understand. I'm a very straightforward person with people. Puppy's doing something I don't like, I will correct it. Even if they think, oh, it's okay, it's not okay. And I'll be like, no, it's not okay, actually.
It's a big problem in England, that is, because people are so British and polite, and it's all, they don't want to upset and offend the other person, so they won't say anything. And it's something you have to get good at it. You have to practice it.
That's why, and I think that's also why I'm so good at communicating with my dogs, because I'm just a direct person.
Yeah.
I'm just a very straightforward person.
But it's what they thrive on. They thrive on that clear,
so they're not confused with what you're trying to communicate with them.
And what you're saying about like the thing in public, that's where kind of the rubber meets the road often. Because again, the reason that we want to be leaders with our dogs is so they look up to us for guidance and direction. So then we can communicate to them easily. That's that's everything my system's built on. But how can we, and again, like leadership has almost become a bit of a catchphrase of mine. So sometimes the meaning of it gets a bit lost, I think. But it's, again, like you say, it's all well and good being your dog's leader in the home and having them look up to you, but that's not necessarily when they need you to be a leader either. When something happens out in public that's out of your control, a classic example of this is when a dog comes running over to you. If you start panicking and aren't willing to step up and lead in that situation, how can you then expect your dogs to look up to you as their calm, consistent leader? And that's where so for me, but I understand that for people that are more confident and assertive, that's easier. But that's where I'm not a huge fan of dog parks and going to places where you can't control the variable.
These guys know,
if you can't control the variables and you're going to put yourself in a situation where you don't feel confident, or like at both of our wives, you might be a bit if something goes wrong, I'm going to feel awkward or nervous here. Well, then you're setting your dogs up to fail. So if possible, avoid those situations and go and practice in situations where you do feel comfortable, and baby steps.
And the thing is, I don't like dog parks. I can't control other people's dogs.
Yeah, exactly.
And guess who's to blame? Somebody comes up and bites Bruce. Bruce kills that dog. Bruce is to blame now.
Yeah, exactly.
And a perfect example, you did a reaction video to our video when a dog charged Bruce. And I didn't like how Kara pulled Bruce because he had a prong collar on, so it's almost like correcting him. But her natural instinct was the leader. She's like, I got this. She moved him out of the way. My natural instinct would have been to kick the dog. But you said she handled it great. He wasn't like, oh my God, I did something wrong. You know what I mean?
Those situations, you've got split seconds. It's so difficult.
It is.
My natural inclination is to get in between as well. Whatever that ends up then looking like, it is what it is. But I have to I would do the same for my children. I'd do the same for my dogs. You just have to step up in those situations, but to kind of plan and prepare for it's so difficult. But yeah, you just have to have that ability just to, right, let's go time. Take like the military guys, like your Marines, tip of the tip. The leaders in that situation, it's all well and good on the training field, but when you're actually deployed, you've got to step. Now's the time where leadership is important. You've got to be able to step up.
You can't be like overthinking your decisions. Those decisions have to happen like within milliseconds.
I'm a huge, Jocko Willink.
What's that?
Do you know Jocko?
Oh, yeah.
I'm a huge Jocko fan, so that's where a lot. I study leadership from dogs, but also within humans and stuff a lot as well. So I study a lot of Jocko's work, and it's so relevant for dogs. How that like extreme ownership and taking charge of a situation under extreme stress, you have to be at least working towards that goal, which for some people is difficult. But then that's also where I then think breed selection is really important.
Absolutely.
A dog like this needs high levels of leadership. A really happy-go-lucky golden retriever might not need that same level of assertive confidence. So those situations might be easier managed.
Exactly.
So people that are of a more nervous, anxious, passive disposition, then maybe this breed isn't right for you.
Absolutely.
And you should choose a different breed. Start there, practice there, try and self-improve and build up those leadership skills, and then advance to these dogs one day in the future.
Because Corsos aren't going anywhere, and I always tell people that. I'm like, don't rush getting a dog from just any breeder, because you're going to set yourself up for failure right there. If you can't assert your leadership and, get your dog to be the companion you want through proper leadership, through proper communication, through balanced training, they're not going anywhere. So like Will said, start with an easier breed, and start with a breed whose instincts match your lifestyle. Don't get a lab. That's a super high energy dog. If you're not a very active person, if you can't fulfill those instinctual needs in the breed, it's going to be much harder to control your dog, to get them to behave like you want, because they have natural instincts. Somebody comes up the driveway, what's Bruce do? He guards the house. He barks, he does his thing, he freaks out. That's built into him, his instincts. I get some people saying they got a Corso. My dog barks at everyone that comes up into the yard. How do I get it to stop? And I'm like, that's what you got. You got a Cane Corso, you got a guardian breed. That's what they're meant to do. And I think people select off looks, off size.
Absolutely.
Not off temperament and not off the dog's genetic instincts.
Yeah, absolutely.
And which makes their life much harder to control a dog.
Yeah.
You know?
And also not fun for either of you.
It's not.
Because even a dog that requires more confident leadership still wants the leadership from you.
Absolutely.
But you just have to have a higher level of it. But the same goes, if you can't match that, your dog won't be happy, but neither will you.
No.
And it's, I work with people who are at their wit's end, where they're considering giving up the dog, putting the dog down. And oftentimes when I go, like, tell me everything, let's go back from the beginning. And they'll have been living in misery for years. It's heartbreaking to see, and it isn't
heartbreaking
worth
for
it.
The dog, it's heartbreaking for the family.
Those nice Instagram pictures that you might get from it isn't worth it.
No,
and again, like you say, there's no rush. Go and spend time with these dogs.
Yeah.
Good and bad ones. Again, it'd be easy to come and spend some time with Bruce and go, Corsos are awesome. But maybe try and find an opportunity to work with some that are still in training or going through, just see the other side of what can happen. And when you see a reactive Corso being aggressive
and scare the crap out of you, big, oh my God, that thing can like.
And if your response is that, then straight away that might be a telltale sign that, okay, because that's very likely going to happen. And if you can't, again, step up, lead, intervene, communicate, that's not acceptable, this is what I want you to do, the things go very wrong very quickly.
They do.
And I get quite passionate about this and understand it's gone down a bit of a negative track, but you have to remember this is from me seeing cases of Corsos that have ripped people's calf muscles off their legs, have mauled other dogs, killed other dogs. I'm seeing that stuff regularly, so when I get quite passionate, it's because unfortunately I kind of see the worst of the worst. So any opportunity that I can kind of relay that to people to say this is what they can be, and this is what they should be,
but this is what they're capable of.
And everybody wants a Bruce Wayne, but not everybody is a Jason Corey. Again, I kind of use that all the time when people come in the UK. People know Bruce, they want Corsos because he's so amazing, and it's that, are you willing to put the work in that you put in, and are you of the skill set and natural disposition that Jason is? If you are, brilliant, then there's a good chance you're going to have a Bruce Wayne.
And I always try to like voice, it wasn't easy for Kara and I. It was a lot of sacrifice. You know, the first year and a half of Bruce's life, we gave up going on dates, going out to dinner, because it was like, we have to go socialize. And now with Justice, like we wanted to go watch a movie, that like, no, we got to go take Justice out. You know what I mean? It's because it's our duty to train him properly, to introduce him to the world properly. We bring him to the gym every day. I love bringing my dogs to the gym with us, but that's an extra layer to our day of, I don't want to say stress, because it's not stressful for me, it's part of our routine, but it's more time.
I still saw you having to pack up this morning and take the extra stuff, and
and then it's like, I can't just fully enjoy the workout because I have eyes on Bruce. Because let's be real here, you see dogs, you're talking about, you've seen Corsos rip off people's calf muscles. A golden retriever biting you will suck. A Corso biting you, you're probably having a broken hand, a broken arm.
And if you're a child, that's death is now on the cards.
Which has happened here in the United States. I think in Chicago, the family. I did a video on it. It was like before I got Bruce. Their Corso killed their 5-year-old child. They named their Corso Machete. Right there. That says a lot. That says a lot right there. Oh, our dog was so nice, blah, blah, blah. But then you talk to the neighbors, oh my God, they used to beat the dog was so mean, they would, you know what I mean? So those people are in jail now, essentially. So that's the other thing. It's like, your dog, any dog you get is a liability on you. Be it a golden retriever, a black lab, a Cane Corso. they're all a liability. So you just need to take your dog serious, especially if you're thinking about getting a Corso. Do things right from the start. Don't learn on the fly.
Yeah.
Okay, there's my good tip. Don't learn on the fly. Educate yourself for years.
They're not a breed to practice on.
Not at all. You don't want to screw up. He's like, I'm just going to live over here now. Yeah, you don't want to practice with them. Understand training. Check out the links in the description. All the training courses are down there. Like, go through the courses without a dog. Educate yourself. Possibly go through them again. When you get the dog, now you can start implementing those strategies, and you have the courses for life, so you can either follow through in real time as you're training your dog, or if you have a good memory, you can just refer back to them here and there. But just doesn't matter if you're taking Will's courses, the ones I'm promoting, if you're reading like books on balanced training, fully educate yourself. And not only fully educate yourself, have an open mind. Have an open mind to other people's ways of training. Have an open mind to using communication tools that you may once found barbaric. Before you come at someone saying those are barbaric, I would never use those. Just find some really good trainers that use them, like Will, and just watch some of his videos. Watch his explanation. Don't just take my word from it on the prong collar stuff, like how it's such a good communication, because he doesn't even get a correction. He knows when I'm moving, because that little latch, he's feeling that latch, so he doesn't have to always have eyes on me. He's a guardian breed. He likes to make sure he's looking, he's scanning the surroundings. So if I'm on a heel and I start walking to the right a little bit, he feels that little chain pull up a little bit, and he just steps over to the side. It's not like it's correcting him. It's not hurting him at all. So just be very open-minded with your training. Any closing words?
No, that's it. Yeah, leadership is love. I bang on about it all the time. But to love our dogs, we have to lead them. And I understand that sounds counterintuitive, but it's so true, because it's what they need. They thrive on it. It's what they're desperate for. And if we're just doting on our dogs and just smothering them with attention and letting them make all the decisions for themselves, they're going to be unhappy and they're going to be badly behaved, and then you're on a slippery slope that often results in shelters and euthanasia. So to truly love your dogs, you need to lead them. And I, again, not to blow smoke up your ass, but I use you as an example of all the time what that looks like.
I appreciate that.
Again, it's easy. I know it's all good for you to say, well, you're a professional, and I'm like, go and watch Jason's stuff then.
I appreciate it.
You're not a professional. You've never claimed to be. Yet look what leadership has achieved. Some of the, and again, I've met people that have competition standard dogs. I'd choose these any day of the week. In terms of what I say a perfect canine companion is this right here. Just a dream, but that's built on leadership.
That takes time too. Everyone wants to rush things. And I'm always like, remember you have a 14-week-old puppy. It's a baby. It's gonna screw up. It's going to be like, wait, everything they see new is like going to Disney World. It's like Christmas morning. They see this pillow for the first time, like, oh, it's Christmas morning. What is that? Like, all excited. And that excitement is going to slowly go away over time, and it's easier for them to communicate. That's why I might get your dog out, have them experience everything. And before we close out, I don't have kids. You got two beautiful children. You wouldn't let your kid just make decisions on their own, run around, right? No. Would you say like kind of how you raise your kids is kind of how you lead your dogs?
It's almost identical. Yeah, it's the same.
I see that a lot from my worked that are like really good leaders with their dog and have kids.
So it's funny, I know we're wrapping up, but my experience came from I worked in special needs schools with young men with behaviour problems. So my job was helping. But
that's why I said before, you're so good at your communication, and so good at training. Like, Will trains people more than dogs.
Yeah, that's what I say. I train people to train dogs. That's my job. But yeah, that's and I do the same thing. So a lot of my theories stem from good academic levels of what is deemed appropriate education. And even within school settings, there's rewards and there's sanctions. There's detentions and lines and stuff.
You can't go to recess today because you screwed up.
Now the problem is we can't do that with dogs. We can't give dogs lines. We can't take their phones off them. We can't put them on the naughty step and expect them to understand.
Can't scare them with no Santa Claus.
Exactly.
You're getting coal.
We have to, so we have to communicate in a language that they understand, and the language that they understand is in terms of corrections is verbal and physical corrections. That's how they correct each other. And we're just trying to tap into that in a fair and loving place, whilst always setting our dogs up for success, to minimize the amount of correction we need to do and maximize the amount of reward that we can give them. And to close, it's really simple. You've got a dog displaying a bad behavior 100% of the time and a good behavior 0% of the time. Well, if we only ever correct the dog, we'll be able to get that behavior to go away, but then they're going to be confused and not know what we do want them to do.
Yes.
If we only ever reward the good behavior, well, then we're going to have the bad behavior sometimes, the good behavior sometimes. We're going to get frustrated and we're going to create problems. But if we help the dog understand that this behavior isn't acceptable, that behavior disappears. But if we also focus on teaching them what we do want, that behavior increases. So the need to correct the dog has gone all the way down to 0, and then we're left with a desirable behavior that's happening all the time, which means we can always be, good job, dog, good job, Joey, good job, Bruce, reward, pets, treats. So it's not like just because we advocate for corrections, you're using it all the time. It's as little as possible to achieve the desired outcome so that we can have this.
Which is why I'm not big on distracting your dog if it's doing something it shouldn't do. Distracting with a treat, distracting with another toy. Because in my mind is, for example, puppy biting, right? Puppy biting, but it's like, oh no, don't bite my hand. Here's a treat.
Yeah.
I just rewarded them for biting my hand because I wanted to distract them.
That's where, for people listening that might think, well, what should you do? My theory is what I call correct, redirect, reinforce. So puppy biting is a beautiful example of that. If the dog's biting and you just bring a toy in and give it to them straight away, you're doing that. You may very well be, they might end up chewing that for a little bit, but it's the same thing.
But you rewarded that behavior.
Bad behaviour's still there. They don't understand. So now maybe they'll chew the toy sometimes, but they'll chew you sometimes, and it's like a hit or miss. And it can create confusion. Whereas if when they're chewing on you, you have a good ability, maybe even just with a verbal, just or no, and then redirect as opposed to trying to distract. We redirect them to the right thing to chew. That's when the toy can come in. So we've made it, you're chewing on my hand, stop doing that. That's not acceptable, but this is acceptable, chew on this instead. And there's a clear distinction between kind of redirecting after a correction to the desirable versus just distracting with something else.
Absolutely.
And then we can go into advanced theories and concepts around that, but puppy biting's a nice way. Take that idea and put that on every bad behavior you might see. If the dog's lunging towards another dog on a walk, correct it, redirect them to a heel position that you've been training previously, and then when they're doing that, reward them for doing that instead. Jumping up, same principle. When they're jumping up, you correct them, and then maybe you send them to a place or a sit and stay, and then when they're doing that, well, now you can reward them for doing that instead. Same principle, correct, redirect, reinforce.
That's beautiful said. I could not have said it better myself.
Thank you.
All right, guys, so make sure you guys do all the things on the way out. Subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, ring the ding-a-lings. Go visit Will's channel. His stuff's going to be linked in the description box. Any training needs, I have you hooked up. Just check out the links in the description box. Save 10% using those links with code Jason, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
What are they doing to these dogs to make them that big? That's what I don't understand.
Bruce Wayne is normal. He's a normal cane.
I've never seen Bruce Wayne.
Oh, he's a psycho. Yes, Bruce Wayne.
Is it Connie Corso?
Yes, that's Bruce Wayne.
That's a big dog.
That's Bruce Wayne.
Oh
Bruce Wayne is insane.
How much does he weigh? Look at his head next to that dude's head.
That's his girlfriend. That's his wife. That's how Bruce Wayne is like 6'2".
You imagine breaking into that house and that demon comes for you?
Oh, he's a psycho.